everybody. We're back. Episode 4 of the Hot Mics with two of the hottest mics on the internet right now.
It can't get better than this.
How are you, buddy?
Doing good, my friend. It's Monday. How's
It
your Monday
is.
going so far? You have a good weekend?
I did. It's busy. Work is extremely busy right now, but it was good to get away for a little bit. Kind of went on a little adventure. Did some Facebook Marketplace shopping. I'm a Sea-Doo owner now, so got some
Oh,
plans to hit the water later today. I hope. How about you?
yeah, man. I had a good weekend. Saturday we went to a Jeep show. I have a Jeep Gladiator. We try to make it all pretty and sit down and hang out with other Jeep owners. It's kind of a fun thing to do. I know folks that are listening that are Jeep people. People are either non-Jeep people or they're Jeep people. I like it. It's a good way to hang out with folks that have similar interests. And we didn't score, we didn't rank, but it was good to hang out with some good folks.
Gotcha, man. Gotcha. How about work chaos right now for you too? You kind of been on a little bit of a road trip watching you on LinkedIn. You've been in several places. What's
It's
up?
hard, it's hard to predict, just when it's going to be busy for me. I mean, the spring is busy for me because it's conference season, and the fall's busy for me for the same reason. But in the summer, just like you guys are busy, contractors are busy. They're all engaged in work. There's summer workload, there's storms and everything else. So we try not to meddle too much this time of year. Just stay off on the peripheral and help members, support members as they need it. But we don't get involved too much in the summertime.
Gotcha. It's too hot to do anything anyway. Right?
Yeah, we don't want to get in their way, and it's good for me because I think we talked about it, but my wife works in a school, so they have off for the summer, and it gives us a chance to do things that we
My,
like to do, like the
my
Jeep show.
my wife is a teacher as well, so I got to ask just real quick before we get into the day's kind of meat and potatoes. Like, my wife thinks everybody's got 2 months off. Right? It's so crazy sometimes. She's like, "What are you doing today?" I'm like, "I'm still going to work, baby. I love you, but I'm gonna go do this thing called jobby job,
Right.
uh, and all this crazy things." And I'm like, "Man, must be nice. Must be nice to
Well,
have 2 weeks off, 2 months off paid."
I think they earn it though. I'm sure you have stories the same as I do, where they come home from work and tell you about their day and the experiences they have working with these kids. It's some of it's inspiring and some of it's heartbreaking.
Man, you got it. And like, what a cool segue because I used to do all the career days back home at my co-op and still travel and speak just like you. And man, I used to have this one little one-liner joke. Linemen, everybody say we got a dangerous job. And I'm like, not as much as teachers. Not as much as teachers. I was like, I think it's teachers and police officers, then those crazy guys on the crab boat, and then us. Oh,
That's true.
and we got to know our space. But you're right, man, and so that's kind of a good lead into exposure. What's
Hmm.
dangerous, what's not, in the political landscape and the social landscape nowadays. Teachers don't have it easy, bro. You're right. You're right.
Well, they're trying to do a lot with a little, just like, our folks are trying to do. And it
Sounds
was
like
really, it was cool having our last episode had Jamie on. It was really cool
yeah,
listening to, how he was involved with the ministry and how he had to apply himself to get as good as he could at that if he's going to be in front of people trying to change lives. And then when he got in the safety role, he took the same approach. I need to beef up on my skill set so I can be the best at my job. And just having that view of helping people get better, man, it's really inspiring when you hear these stories.
it must be what this life is about. It must
Yeah.
be about just serving people regardless of where we're at. And I think, people like us are just so lucky. We're so blessed to have fallen into the trades, number one, the opportunities that they provide, but then, yeah, the job specific safety role gives us so much exposure to what true service leadership is. And we got an exciting episode coming up, talking to Alex in the future in a couple weeks about what it looks like from a contractor standpoint, even, and some of the stuff that he posts on LinkedIn is about service leadership, even in the contractor space. So, yeah, if I could, steal something from what Jamie talked about, last time, it's just we were discussing the just the amount of pressure we're putting on these guys, and not only with the work, but just all the requirements and how those requirements and the regulatory piece, you and I are still trying to figure this stuff out is so important. But man, we can't let it outweigh what truly matters. And so I heard a great podcast a week or two ago with our boy Brett Jeffries and good friend of mine, Chad Johnson. And they really kind of hit home on that accountability piece, man. And one of the questions hopefully we can ask Alex is about accountability too. Where do you see accountability, Mike, in the future for an organization? Where do you see it for crews? Where do you see it for individuals? Because I think you gotta start somewhere, and there's a bunch of places you can start, but accountability is a big one.
Yeah, and that's one of those words, right? You hear accountability, and a lot of folks will shift it and say, "Well, we're really talking about responsibility." There's a lot of different ways, but what we're really saying is everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing to move whatever it is that we're working on forward, right? Are we adding value? Are we doing the things like in this chain of things that need to happen, the things that I'm responsible for? Am I doing what needs to happen? And then if I hadn't, for some reason, something happened and I just didn't have all the information I needed, or I made a mistake, or it was a bad day for me. How do I take responsibility in another sensitive word to make sure that those things get corrected, and so that I'm continuous improvement mindset? You know, there's a lot of things that we can fix and chase after, and it can be everything from our work methods to how we engage with the customer, to how we train our people, to how we maintain our equipment and tools, to our PPE program. I mean, you could probably pick any point on the map and drill down and say, okay, there's work to do here. So really the challenge for us is, how do you prioritize that? And Jamie did, I think, a pretty good job of talking about that with, lay out as a checklist, figure out what your highest priorities are, what's going to hurt you the most, what's going to give you the best return on your investment. And I think if we look at what we're responsible for and take accountability to make sure all those things are happening, and that's a lot of wordplay there, but I think that's what we have to do. You have to be humble. We have to recognize that we're going to probably mess some things up along the way, but we're going to be humble enough to work together to say, okay, well, how can I do better next time? I don't know. What do you think?
Similar thoughts, and I think as an industry, we have we've gained such progress with rules and regulations and training that like we have almost fine tuned it to. It's not perfect, but man, it's really good. And so to still see incidents, accidents, fatalities, that the model is still good. People don't like to say the model may be broken or outdated, or like I think Jamie was encouraging us to, like, when's the last time you said, all right, we're going to adapt this new rule, but that means we're going to pull one out too.
Mm.
We're going to edit one. We're going to redact one. We're going to or amend one. Man, that's not something that's easily swallowed in our space. So I think it's tough. I really do, because the success has always pushed us to get this perfect, almost perfect model of how it all works. But the human element that you and I are trying to
Mm.
tackle, and some of the others like Chad and Brent, and the psychology piece with Bill Martin, and getting beyond what we see on a surface level. That's Jamie's kind of real inspiration behind his content too, seeing beyond what's at face value, and getting to the root and the heart of these problems. And so, man, what I say for next is, like, it's going to take people like us, or a Jamie, or a safety director, or a contractor, to go out and test this model,
Hmm.
to test what it looks like to trim down something, and solely just make a job site or a work project focus, and maybe narrow our gaze a little bit. What do you think? I think it may take somebody to truly set a baseline. I know Bill Martin, again,
Hmm.
he's doing this. He told me he's doing this little kind of experiment with a crew on reshaping tailgate. So I can't wait to hear what he finds out from that. But it's going to take somebody to do that. We have to
That's
be
right.
willing to find that space to do it. So what do you think?
Well, I like to think that we're operating in two parallel paths in our industry. We have this, and we talk about it in safety management as work is planned as versus work is performed. When you go to parallel two unlike feeders, you got to equalize voltage, right? You got to make sure that they can talk to each other, that they're friends before you close that switch. That's the same thing we have to do with how we plan our work and build our systems and our procedures and practices and what's our cultural priorities. The C-suite is identifying this is our North Star, this is where we're headed. I'm going to prepare you and give you all the resources so that we can march together towards this common goal. And then on the other side, the parallel path is, hey, we're out here turning wrenches every day, bro. I mean, it's not a new journey for us. We're coming here, we're doing the work that we always do, that we have experience doing, that my father did before me and my his father did before him. And so for them, it's not anything new. This is just how we do work. Now, there's new things introduced into that environment, whether it's a new customer requirement, or maybe OSHA creates a new requirement, or maybe some advancements in PPE or tooling, and we have to kind of shift the way that we do work. But line work has been performed essentially the same way for years and years and years. And these guys that have, experience turning these wrenches out there, clicking up those poles, they understand um, what the things they've been asked to do, and what are the out of those things, which ones were like a reasonable request, and what things were like, what world are you in thinking that we're going to be able to achieve that, or it's a slam dunk, right? So it's not just your management thinks we just put a decree out there and it just happens, right? We trained you on this yesterday. This is what we expect you to do, and then we're scratching our heads when it doesn't come to fruition out on the job site. And the first instinct is the guys just decided that they're not going to listen to us. So if we're not ever equalizing voltage, we're not sitting out there engaging with our people in the field and understanding where their pain points are and understanding why they deviate from the plan. We're just walking in two different paths.
Man, you're right. And I think something that the co-ops, I think, have done relatively well um, throughout their inception was just, and again, it's because the nature of how we're organized, how we're structured is just, small rural community, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody in the whole town knows where you work, and relationships are maybe more easily established, I think. But the co-ops have grown so much that I think one of the things that you and I've talked about a lot, is just how can we make it personal? How
Mm,
can we understand throughout the organization who our people are, and get to know them on a personal level as best we can. I know we got work to do, and I know we're professionals, but I like to believe, and I'm trying to make this movement happen in South Carolina, that, man, it'd be great to know Mike really well before it all hits the fan,
right.
so that, God forbid, when it hits the fan, we there's some meaning behind it. There's some drive, and there's some motivating factors. And then, God, before it hits the fan, now there's some motivating factors before an incident, before an accident. There's a care, there's a compassion, there's a relationship established that I am going to say something. No, we are going to do the full work stop that you help us, stay aware to. And why? Well, organizationally, it's wrong, and standards, yeah, it's wrong, and it's not the safe work practice that you talked about, but it's also just like, Mike, what are you doing?
Right.
You got Jeep show this weekend. Let's not risk that. I did this at a co-op one time. I had a safe work practice meeting that I was going to do, and before we started, and it's just where we ended up. We didn't even do the typical meeting. I had a whiteboard, man, and I was like, I want everybody to come up and write their favorite Saturday. Write down what's your favorite Saturday, what you love to do on a Saturday. What's your perfect Saturday look like? And they wrote it all down, and I said, that's your safe work practice rules right there. Do I care about you enough, and do I love you enough to give you your Jeep day, your antique day, your day on the lake, your lay around in my pajamas all day? Do I love you enough to say, I want you to have that day?
Right.
So collectively, let's do what we got to do to keep those Saturdays around. Let's keep those vacations around. And it's tough because everybody's different and everybody doesn't always, a socialite and all these different things. But man, the best cruise I were on, the safest cruise I were on, man, we had a dynamic of respect and that accountability on the front end. I give you, man, Chad Johnson just talked about this the other day. I give you permission to help keep me accountable. So when I hear the word accountability, that's kind of where I gravitate to, and it's a challenge, man. And I'm trying to, inform people and motivate people and encourage people that, let's try that. Let's take it back to kind of where we started.
Community, belonging, trusting each other,
Trust, yeah,
humility.
that's right, that's
I
right.
mean, man, I mean, we're talking about some complex, touchy-feely stuff here, man. We think that we can throw a whole bunch of bodies at a job, and if they're all trained professionals, they're going to go out there and click and get the job done without any problems. But we're creatures that we're social creatures.
Do you probably see that more in the contractor space with traveling
Hmm.
and the storm aspect about guys having to come meet in a parking lot maybe and introduce themselves to one another, and then on top of that go do this crazy work that we're doing? Is That's got to be tough.
It's a challenge, and there's pros and cons to all of it. There's pros and cons to working on a utility system and going home, sleeping in your bed, same bed that you woke up in every night, and seeing your family and going to the ball games and all that stuff. And there's advantages to going out there and learning the trade and seeing how it's done around the country and learning different, system configurations and voltage classes and different kinds of transformer banks and different ways of system protection. I mean, all those things make you a better lineman and make you better at what you do. But so there's pros and cons no matter where you're coming from or what your setup is. But you're right, contractors have this, an inherent issue with a transitory workforce. It's just the nature of how we work, right? Because a project needs, if I need 30 journeyman linemen for a project, when that project closes, the next project needs 10 journeyman linemen. Where those other 20 go? Where they're looking, other work that's out there. So they get, and so that's true of contractors. No matter what your, no matter what your affiliation is, you're looking for where the work is, and when you get to where the work is, what's the culture there? I mean, what's the onboarding look like? Or, as an employer, do you create a condition, an environment where even though you know that these guys are probably going to be working together for a few months, what are you doing to give them the best chance, the best foot forward? Do you have regular check-ins scheduled? Do you have operational calls where people can communicate? Does the general foreman have a process where he's doing routine check-ins? Not just that on the job, but swinging by the hotel room. How's everybody doing? Anybody need any ice? Anybody need any refreshments? Whatever, right? What are you doing to create an environment where folks feel like they're part of something bigger than just a group of guys turning wrenches together?
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I had a chance and an opportunity to speak at the SAI conference a few weeks ago, and
How'd
uh,
that go?
it was good, man. It was really good. We had a really impactful meeting. There's probably 65, 70 guys there from all across the Southeast and Midwest. And it was a good showing of safety professionals and linemen. There were some linemen in the room. Actually had some management in the room, so it was good. And they gave me a chance to speak and did a leadership piece, part of a program that I built. But I told them something I heard online a few months ago that's really hit me, man. And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but somebody just made a really simple post that said, "Your company's culture, your organization's culture, your crew's culture is not on a shirt and it's not on a poster on the wall." They said, "Your company's culture is what your people think Sunday night at 7 or Sunday night at 9 o'clock."
Wow.
Think about that. What is that feeling you have Sunday night at 9 o'clock? Oh God. Oh geez. Tomorrow's Monday. Oh geez. I gotta go be on that crew. I gotta go back to that place. I gotta go back to that. Man, that was huge for me to hear that and kind of sit on that about what that feels like. So, man, you're right. I think the responsibility, the accountability of management, because we want it to start top down, because that's where all the authority is man, what do your people feel like Sunday night? Are they dreading coming back in here, or do they want to come be a part of something? And what is that something? Is it just building lines? I love your example of the foreman, hotel check, maybe just a call, just a text, something to let your people know that they exist. And they're more than just, a guy that's going to strap the hooks on and go sag some line.
That's
You've
it.
got value, you've got some worth to us. And I tried to do that when I was a foreman for 3 years. I probably failed at it more than I had wins. But, something so simple as a biscuit, a quick debrief on a Monday, just how's everybody doing? A mental check. I said this at Say too, and I want to see what you think about this. And I won't let the whole cat out of the bag. This is something Jamie and I are kind of chewing on. But let me ask you real quick. Give me top two. God forbid Mike gets that call. There's an incident. There's an accident. Somebody's hurt, or God forbid a fatality. What's the first two questions that you may have that jump into your mind? What's the first two things that you'd be like, okay, I got to ask these two things? Kind of a broad question, but
No, I think my first reaction would be, "Oh shoot, do I know
yeah.
what I need to do? All right,
Okay.
do I have all the information? Who am I supposed to call? How are we supposed to triage this right now?"
All right. I'll just leave you with those two. So there was I think what I heard was an oh crap, but then there was what information, or is like everybody okay? Let's just say it's, man, is everybody okay? Let me get the details of what happened, and then what's our message? What's our
I
information, man?
I think I think is everybody, and this is not going to be popular. I think is everybody okay is number two.
Okay.
I
What's the
think
one?
first one is, what am I going to do? Right
Yeah.
now, I'm responsible. I have to chase this sucker down. I have to manage this event.
This is perfect, because depending on people's responses, when Jamie and I are going to kind of throw this stuff out there, here's the challenge I would give you if you're that safety guy and you get that call. Ask these questions today.
I'm writing them down. Go ahead.
No, that's it. You already said them.
Oh, okay.
Use these same questions today versus after the event.
I understand what you're saying. That's perfect. Yeah.
So, what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do? So, for you, just Mike Starner, there's your question one. What am I supposed to do today? What is my goal today? And your second question is, was people okay? Are my people okay? That's Mike's Monday morning to-do list.
I love that.
So whatever questions that you would have in that God forbid moment, like, oh my God, I hope Frank or George is okay, or man, I hope his family's okay. If that's Micah's first two questions, then I need to go to him now while he's still here and ask him that. Hey, you okay?
Dude,
How's everything going? And
I love
then
that.
if question number two for me is how's his family, then how's your family? Everybody okay? Everybody good at home? How's the boys? I know you had some little league. I know you took a vacation. That's the questions you ask. Proactive versus reactive.
I love
So
it.
Jamie and I are kind of making a curriculum out of that. I'm really excited to see it kind of formulate.
What I like about it is it's a muscle memory thing too, right? You're seeding the idea in your head. Okay, so when the crap hits the fan, it's not going to be the first time you thought about it. I like that piece of it.
Yep.
And I like the second part that, you're making connections and treating people like people, even when, even when you don't have to, let's say, right? Like you're not forced to because there's been an event or there's not some kind of management initiative to get to know your people. You're doing it on your own in advance, and that earns credibility and trust.
The weight of that incident shifts my focus to that person in the heat of that oh my God situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that shift, that's a good shift if we can recreate it before the accident.
Right.
So whatever those questions are, whoever you ask that, Jamie and I are, again, we're going to hash out some curriculum, hopefully, to whatever that organization, that crew is. It's whatever your first questions are. Well, ask those on a random Tuesday. Ask those at your Monday morning meeting. Ask those in your monthly meeting. Don't
Mhm.
ask them after the fact.
Yeah, in safety, we talk about resilience engineering, and it's usually talked about from like like from a monitoring the job site perspective, but it also works monitoring your culture, monitoring your workforce, monitor what is the current state of your organization, how they get work done, but also how they interact with each other, how do they respond to initiatives, how do they, they have what they need, if it's an in-house utility person like yourself, what are you doing to make sure they're getting enough rest? They're working long shifts, they're responding to storm calls, they're doing everything that they need to do locally from a contractor's perspective. What are you doing to help support them? So if there's issues going about on back at home, do they have, are they getting information to help them make, choices that are good for their health? We
Yeah.
see so much in our trade right now with mental fitness, just folks understanding how to manage their emotions and to deal with adversity in their life and their self-medication and folks, just not having support systems. They get released from the job and they're back in their hotel stewing on an issue. That's why I said the foreman check-in or general foreman check-in. That's a key way, I think. A lot of our guys are in hotels. You get in the parking lot, you back your truck up, you have a ice chest full of drinks, and you bring everybody around in a controlled environment, and you just be friends with each other. Think about how
Dude,
you can.
sorry, you
eh,
just my mind is like flooded with how I saw this in my career. And one point in particular, if you give me a second to share, I had a foreman, and I use this example in the leadership presentation that I do. Man, do you see your people? Like, do you really see them?
mm,
And I had a foreman, Mike, one day hide and wait for me in the parking lot going into work, and he kind of I saw him, but he kind of just came out from in between the trucks before I got into the crew quarter, man. And he just like, hey, give me a second. Are you good? And I was like, I'm a lineman, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. What are you talking about? I'm good. He was like, no. Nah. He's like, if I need to know if you're good. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He was like, well, um, did you sleep here 2 nights last week?
wow.
And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, one of the guys, I heard from dispatch that you had came in late and had crashed here twice. What's going on? And I had issues at home, man, and it was just kind of wild and needed a place to crash. So he saw me enough to stop me and ask me if I was okay, and then he gave me permission to kind of just clear my head before I needed to come back to the crew, and he stuck his neck out for me a little bit, man. So everything ended up being fine, but man, like the spine he had to number one identify me beyond the scope of the work, man, and like he knew something was off, and then the opportunity he gave me to he shifted my workload for like 2 days to allow me to clear my head and do some things I needed to do, and that was huge, man.
Oh,
That created. I would do anything for that guy, anything.
it
So
sounds like your two questions that you started with,
right,
right? So how many times we do an incident investigation and we figure out that, somebody's had that kind of stuff going on in their personal life, and we would attribute that's a contributing factor to this event. It would be a data point, and we'd put a
yeah.
lot of emphasis on it. We're like, well, it probably, the guy wasn't at his best, so that's probably part of. How cool is it that he took time out of his day to have probably a difficult conversation? Nobody really likes getting anybody else's business, but saw the benefit of asking you that question in advance before something happened.
it
Man, it's
it
beautiful.
was it made such an impact on me, man. I had a chance to do that myself when I became a foreman one time, where you're right, unpopular, very unpopular in HIPAA, and there's certain things we do and
Hmm.
don't need to know, but if you can cultivate that relationship, there's space for that freedom and there's space for that accountability. But I had a guy on my crew, one time where I had to, hey, we need to hold off on something until we can figure some things out. And I didn't do that for the sole benefit of the company or the reliability. Man, I did it for him. It was hard for him to see that in that moment because, we're these dudes with a lot of ego and pride sometimes. But no, man, I think that's the new shift for guys like me, you, Jamie, Chad, and Brett, and guys that hopefully we're going to talk to, like Alex and anybody else in the
Mm-hmm.
future, to try to, like, man, we got stuff to do. We got lights to keep on. We got poles to set. We got sticks to get in the ground. We got cable to bury, and all that's super important. But it cannot be at the expense of our people. It
Mm-hmm.
cannot be.
Yeah, well, the utility I came up in, the service building had green doors, and the foreman used to say, you don't belong inside them green doors. Don't go inside them green doors. Our work's out here." And so when I say this, there's a lot of decisions that happen inside the green doors, and nobody takes the time to think about what's the impact going to be outside the green doors. And I think that's what's shifting in our trade. I think we're starting to listen to the field more. We're gauging with the workforce. That's what I hope. Hopefully, we get a lot of that work talking to Alex next month.
Yeah.
But you know, we really need to be able to translate this information, right? I almost think that a safety person, that's probably our biggest assignment, is to be a translator, an advocate. You know,
Yeah.
to help translate. Okay, well, this is for whatever reason, it's a requirement because of law. It's an OSHA reg. It's our company policy. Our insurance provider is making us do this. Whatever the requirement is on this side, and it's important things that have to happen. And like the field people aren't always going to understand the pros and cons of these things, right? You can't just dump it out on the field. You got to have somebody translating this information, put it in their language, put it in terms that they understand, and help them
Yeah.
understand, the intent. That's what I always say. You may not always agree with the rule, but you have to at least appreciate what the intent is. What were they trying? What problem were they trying to solve? And then what
That's
that does, it gives us a chance to debate that, that in a way that we can improve upon it. Okay. So if this is what our intent was, and you don't see it developing that way, there's an unintended consequence or whatever else. The management team is not necessarily going to see that all the time. You need to give that information to your management team,
yeah.
and they're not just going to kind of like write a letter into the main office and talk about all the things that are on their mind. You have to sometimes you have to pull it out of them, and not pull it out of them in an aggressive way, but you got to create an environment where people are talking.
There you go. That's the relationship piece for freedom, for growth.
Yes.
Then you get to what Jamie was talking about with the amendment. I love how you said intent. That's huge behind. All right, the rule written in 1971 was intended for this. What's changed with that? Maybe not a whole lot, maybe a lot.
All
But
right.
when's the last time we've evaluated that? We redo the National Electric Safety Code. We redo our safety manuals. When's the last time we redid our organizational communication culture, platforms and stuff like that? How long have we followed that narrative? So, man, that's good that you bring up the intent. I love
Mhm.
that, to make sure that we don't still lose focus. It's not throw away the rule book. It's make sure we understand the intent behind it. That's good stuff, Mike. That's
Well,
good.
linemen are practical people, right?
Yeah.
And they understand how you get to point C through A and B and the decisions that happen along the way. So if you can help paint the picture, here's what our intent was, here's the
Yeah.
decisions we made to sort of like, reach that goal.
Yeah.
What do we, and then and if you're a humble organization, you say, okay, what am I getting wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
How can we make it better?
Yeah. I'm going to do a meeting tomorrow at one of my co-ops, and they've asked for us to do a safety talk on hazard recognition. And I'm excited to go do it, and I'm going to shake it up a little bit with my approach and try to make it as interactive as I can for linemen at 7 o'clock in the morning. But
Oh man, your stuff is so good.
well, I appreciate that. I had a lot of success a few months ago when I tried it with a co-op that in their training room, it was an older meeting space that had an elevated stage on it. And driving there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try something this time. I'm going to try something different. And we hit the high notes of what we needed to hit for hazard recognition for the program that our statewide uses and that I do. But I said right at the end, I was like, hey, I got a volunteer. And I brought him up on stage and I asked him if he trusted me first. He's like, sure. And I knew him. And I turned his back to everybody in the room and I backed him as close as I could to the edge of that stage. And I had him in my hands and I had his arm and I got him right on the edge. And you could feel it in that room, Mike. It was tense. It was heavy. And I said, I got you. And I did a little minute on trust. That was selfish, right? I just wanted to plug some trust conversation. But then I asked the room, I was like, whose heart is racing right now? Who's freaking out? Like, what is this idiot from statewide doing? Who's like, what is going to happen next? And everybody was all in it. And I said, let me ask you something. This stage has been here for 70 years. This stage has been here for the last hour. We've been talking, but nobody cared until I put somebody you love right on the edge of it. And if we can shift our narrative, our thinking throughout safety and throughout everything we do, and just for hazard recognition, man, if I can see something, oh, it's just a loose guy. Oh, that pole's just leaning a little bit. Oh, it's one broken brace. Well, there's another brace. Or it's Friday at 4 o'clock. I need nothing. No, you have to put somebody that you love in that environment to help see the hazard. And so it's about that commitment. It's about relationships. And it's not even like, oh, I'm envisioning my kid over there. No, as a professional in this space, the community trusts us. The general public trusts us. That's why we have to adhere to the codes and standards we do as professionals to provide this service in a safe environment. So I have to think, well, that loose guy, that's not a big a deal. Well, is it? Is it? Do I envision somebody over there that I care about? Do I really care about people? So that's what I'm going to try to do again tomorrow at a different co-op to shift how we think about hazards. They're around us everywhere. And I may not care about them until I get somebody close to them.
Man, I love that. I mean, we kind of been talking about the same thing on and off again about framing the conversation. How do you, it's the translation, it's the put it in perspective, it's the,
Yeah.
the environment where you're having discussion,
Yeah.
it's, identifying the intent. All those things are framing the conversation in a way
Yeah.
that the guys are receptive to, right?
Yeah.
And I've said it a million times, we don't hire bad people. We don't hire reckless, careless people. If we did, then man, we got some screwed up programs, right? So, we do our due diligence. We hire good people. We train them well. We got good programs. I know you got good programs. We got good programs. We're giving them the best foot forward. Now, our industry struggles a little bit. We're a little threadbare with our experience level, but we can overcome that. And
Yeah.
we overcome it. We overcome that by talking to each other, giving ourselves the capacity, the little bit of elbow room, a little bit more time, a little bit more resources on the job site. Maybe we send an extra guy on that job. Maybe we talk to the customer and we extend the due date so because we ran into some problems. Maybe maybe we had traffic protection set up as a lane shift, but now we're going to do a lane closure. There's things that you can do to compensate for where our industry is, but if you can get the framing right, then people understand why you're doing what you're doing,
There
and
you
you're
go.
probably going to get some people jumping on the bandwagon.
There you go, man. Where are you at this week? What you got going? You gonna be
Nothing, bro. I'm laying down.
okay? I
Laying
got you.
down this week. Let's see. In a couple weeks, we have what we call the National Training Institute. That's or NTI. That's where all our trainers come together and sort of polish up on their training skills and advance if they have to progress and get to the next step level of trainer. They go and get some of that coursework done. There's a graduation at the end where folks can graduate. They get the ceremony, so that's always fun. A little pomp and circumstance to recognize the effort. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, if I was to hang my hat on any of the folks that we have in our circles, it's the trainers, the people that are out there training. Safety professionals, and some of us are both. So some of us do a lot of that stuff. But if you're a dedicated trainer, where your job is to take folks and turn them into linemen, not only do you understand, the training standard, the competencies that are required, the proficiencies that are required. You understand you got your finger on the pulse of the industry because you're hearing from these guys what's going on the street. You're involved sometimes in incidents, incident review, giving that trainer perspective. So this is just a hats off moment. If you have a chance to thank a trainer, we just celebrated Line Workers Appreciation Day. I would say we need a trainers appreciation day, and that should be pretty much every day. You know, go out there and buy your trainer a cold soda or something and say thanks, bro.
Yeah, find out his favorite drink for sure. I don't know many people that have stepped into this space so far in the 3.5 years that I've been around Mike in this role that like didn't want to a little bit kind of do this type of job. I know there's some people out there that's been voluntold to do some things, but most of the guys I've met, man, in these circles like you and the guys in our class, man, they have a calling, they have like a mission, they have a purpose for trying to make a difference. I don't know anybody that's in our roles that are just waiting on that check, so to speak. So yeah, hats off and to those trainers out there that may catch wind of this or listening to this, and you want to be a part of the podcast / peer cast that we're building, man, we want to hear from you. We just want to
Yeah.
create a conversation. We just want to see where the industry's going, share some ideas. I'll tell you, I've got a meeting tomorrow to co-op, and then I'm on the road to Florida to go to the International Lineman Museum and see
Cool.
Andy Price and his team down there. The
Mm.
museum was in Shelby, North Carolina for years, and now it has recently moved to a new property they bought in Florida. So I'll be putting some stuff out there about that visit and some posts about some historical things. But as we wrap up today, yeah, anybody out there that's listening, if you want to get involved with me and Mike, you want to share this conversation, you want to give your perspective into where we're going or where we've been, and be a part of what we're doing to try to shake up this industry, please let us know and reach out to us any way you can. Like and share our stuff. If we can get more traffic, obviously we get more eyes on it and get some more exposure. That's not exposure for me and Mike. That's exposure for our industry. That's
Hmm.
exposure for this movement and this conversation about real change. So I appreciate everybody being here, man. Mike, you want to get us out?
Yeah. No, I just want to, reinforce what you just said there. This is a peer cast. Me and Mike are enthusiasts. We're not experts. We want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
We want to hear your story. What story do you have to tell? I mean, this is a really cool thing that we're doing just to kind of talk a little shop in our trade and figure out, tear down the walls between all those different organizations that you may be affiliated with, and let's just talk. How can we keep people alive in our trade? And it's going to be us being humble enough to just come together and tell stories and learn from each other. So
The good and the bad, man. The
good
good.
and the bad. That's right. Sometimes it's
Hey,
not always pretty. So if you
yeah.
want to if you want to come talk to us and tell us some stories that you think are, hey, this needs to be said. This needs to be brought to attention. It may not be popular information, but we'll do it in a way that's respectful. We'll get it out there and we'll make sure people understand what the issues are. We don't want to have any landmines sitting out there, do we, Micah?
No, 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 no. This is going to be as cheesy as I'll ever get. It's a safe space. I promise to come share your thoughts. So more than happy to just engage and again make a movement out of this. Make something out of this so that we look back and go, man, I'm glad we started that. Look at the lives we were able to affect and impact. Look at the people that learned and gravitated to our space to make some real change. So we love everybody out there. Appreciate your support, and we'll jump on here in a few weeks with Alex and see what happens next, and then catch you guys on episodes 5 and 6. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. See you next time.